All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. We're looking at 3 deeply unsettling, totally real accounts that really expose the isolating terror of working the graveyard shift. You know, when we think of late-night gas station runs, we usually just picture grabbing a quick snack or filling up the tank on some empty highway. But today, we're unpacking source material from 2 guys who experienced absolute nightmares right when they thought they were completely alone. Just imagine hearing this. Calm as anything, don't worry, it's not my blood. Hearing that from a customer strolling into a desolate gas station at 2 in the morning, it perfectly sets the stage for the intense psychological suspense we are about to get into. Let's look at exactly how this terrifying encounter started. Part 1. The Graveyard Shift. Isolation and Vulnerability. Our first narrator, David, was working the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift at a convenience store out in the absolute middle of nowhere. I mean, we've all been in places like this, right? Where literally the only sound is that faint, numbing hum of old fluorescent lights. David's just leaning against the counter, dying of boredom, reading a magazine just to keep his eyes open. Well, that agonizing boredom was instantly shattered. The dead silence broke with the familiar chime of the front door, and a tall, athletic 30-something guy walks into the store. But David immediately notices something is horribly, horribly wrong. The psychological shock of this moment had to be paralyzing. This guy wasn't just injured, he was drenched in a cartoonish amount of blood. We're talking huge splatters across his chest, his face, his arms, and yet he's acting like he's just there to buy a bag of chips. His eyes were completely empty, like dead, with absolutely nothing behind them. When David understandably couldn't stop staring, the guy just smiles and drops that terrifying line, "Don't worry, it's not my blood." Obviously, David goes straight into survival mode. He nods, keeps his head down, and rings the guy up. The man pees and catch, walks out, and the door chimes shut. The absolute second David hears that car engine start up in the parking lot, his instincts kick in, and he dials 911 to report what he just saw. But as you might guess, the nightmare was far from over. While David is mid-sentence with the 911 dispatcher, answering those clarifying questions, the front door chimes again. It wasn't a new customer. It was the blood-covered man. He'd come back inside and he looked absolutely furious because he'd spotted David on the phone through the front window. What follows is an absolute explosion of violence. The guy storms up, screaming, those empty eyes now just filled with pure rage. In a split second, he launches his entire body completely across the counter, tackles David to the floor, and starts strangling him. David is literally fighting for his life, kicking, thrashing around, getting the stranger's blood smeared all over his own face and clothes. The attack only stops when David tries a desperate bluff and screams out that he has a gun. Miraculously, it works. The attacker lets go, bolts for the door, and speeds off into the night. Part 2, the suited stalker, the escalation. Fast forward a few months, and David is actually still working at that same gas station. He'd basically convinced himself the attack was a one-time freak occurrence, right? Just a random horrible event. But then, on another dead silent late shift, another highly unusual customer walks in. The contrast between these 2 antagonists is wild. While the first guy was chaotic and just covered in blood, this new arrival was the exact opposite. He walks in past midnight wearing an expensive, perfectly tailored dark gray suit. And instead of pure, unhinged rage, this guy had cold, highly calculating eyes. And he doesn't browse the aisles, doesn't even look around the store. He walks straight up to the counter, reaches into that tailored jacket, and pulls out exactly one item, a photograph. When David looks down at it, his heart completely stops. It's a picture of the bloody attacker from months ago. The suited man asks David, in this incredibly gruff, raspy voice, if he'd ever seen the man in the photo. David's gut is absolutely screaming at him to deny it. Just stay out of whatever dark underworld this is connected to. So he lies. He says no. What follows is this excruciatingly long, silent standoff while the suited man just studies David's face. Finally, he turns, walks to the door, but pauses right before leaving to drop this terrifying final statement. "I know you're lying." This wasn't some immediate attack. It was a slow, deliberate escalation, a stalking progression. David starts seeing a silver SUV everywhere he goes. Day 1, it's parked across from his work. By week 1, it's at his local grocery store. And then, terrifyingly, by week 2, it's parked on his own private residential street. He lives alone, no security, and naively kind of hopes that just ignoring it will make it stop. Then we hit week 3. David is jerked awake in the middle of the night by the deafening sound of glass shattering inside his home. He grabs a baseball bat, runs into the living room, ready for a fight, but there's nobody there. Instead, sitting perfectly in the middle of all this broken glass on his floor is a plain, fist-sized rock. No note, but the message was crystal clear. We know where you live, and we can get to you. David quit his job the very next morning and eventually moved completely out of state. Part 3, the highway stowaway, the unknown. Okay, let's shift gears to our second narrator, who had his own gas station horror, but in a totally different way. This guy is driving his old truck home from a grueling, physically exhausting job site at 10 o'clock at night. He's 3 hours from home and dangerously close to just falling asleep at the wheel. Driven by sheer exhaustion, he makes the responsible choice and pulls into a dead, empty gas station lot to take a quick 1-hour nap. When he wakes up, he merges back onto the highway, basically on autopilot. But about 20 minutes into the drive, he starts hearing this faint, strange thumping sound coming from the bed of his truck. He figures, hey, it's just a loose tool, and out of pure exhaustive frustration, he reaches out and slams his hand hard against the hood. And suddenly, the thumping completely stops. As the adrenaline kind of wakes him up a bit more, this really terrifying realization sets in. Inanimate objects, like a loose hammer or wrench, they don't just stop rattling because you yell and hit the hood, right? So we really have to ask, what on earth was making that noise in the truck bed? For 10 agonizing minutes, there's just absolute silence. But then, that silence is violently interrupted by a massive crash directly behind his head. It sounded exactly like a heavy rock being smashed against glass. Turning around in pure terror, the driver sees an absolute nightmare. There is a maniac in a hoodie standing up in the bed of his moving truck, repeatedly smashing some heavy tool against the glass divider right behind his head. The account describes the guy as moving barbarically, literally like a trapped wild animal trying to claw its way out of a cage. The sheer shock of this causes the driver to swerve, and the truck starts spinning completely out of control on this dark highway. Somehow, the driver manages to wrestle the truck back under control and skids to a halt on the shoulder. Fueled by just pure, raw adrenaline, he rips off his seatbelt and jumps out to confront the guy. But the second he rounds the back of the truck, the stowaway bails out of the bed, sprints directly into the pitch-black woods off the side of the highway, and just vanishes. Part 4, the gruesome discovery, left behind. Trembling, totally alone, and rapidly losing that temporary burst of courage, the driver climbs up into the bed of his destroyed truck. The glass divider is completely spiderwebbed. He's looking for the tool the guy was using, but instead, he finds something completely foreign and deeply, deeply disturbing. What he finds wasn't a tool at all. It was a small trash bag, about the size of 2 fists, tightly wrapped over on itself multiple times, like someone really wanted to keep it secure. And as he gets closer, it smells absolutely rancid, like rotting meat. Disgusted and terrified, he grabs the bag and just chucks it as far as he can into the trees to get it away from him. He scrambles back into the driver's seat and hits the gas, speeding away as fast as his truck will go. But as he grips the steering wheel, he looks down under the dashboard lights and is just sickened. The bag he grabbed had been heavily coated in this wet, red substance. And now, that red substance was smeared all over his own hands. Part 5, Unsolved Encounters, the Lingering Terror. He wipes his hands on his jeans and drives the rest of the way home in a state of sheer panic. He actually never reported this to the police. But looking back at the timeline, there's really only one terrifying deduction to make. That man with the bloody bag silently climbed into the unprotected bed of the truck, laying completely flat in the dark, while the driver was innocently taking a nap at that empty gas station. Both of these deeply unsettling, completely unsolved encounters leave us with a chilling realization. They really force us to question our own situational awareness. Whether you're working a quiet counter shift or just pulling over to rest your eyes for a minute, it makes you wonder what truly lurks in the shadows when the rest of the world is asleep. Thank you for exploring this with me today, and hey, keep your eyes open out there.